Voltaire, or François-Marie Arouet, was a French writer, historian, and philosopher, who was well known for his wit and civil rights advocacy. He wrote in many different forms, with plays, poems, scientific journals, and novels all being included amongst his works. Voltaire was born in Paris, and against the wishes of his father, he pursued a career in writing, often in secret. He made trouble for himself by criticizing government and religious dogma, leading to many cases of imprisonment and exile. He adopted the name Voltaire after he was imprisoned in the Bastille for 11 months. Voltaire is an anagram of the Latin spelling of his surname, Arouet-Lee. Voltaire was exiled to Britain for 3 years, and during this time he published his views on British attitudes to government, literature, and religion, and during this time he was also introduced to the works of William Shakespeare. These works were controversial in France, and when he returned, the book was burnt and Voltaire was forced to flee again. He travelled across Europe and continued writing, and published further works on the teachings of Sir Isaac Newton, and wrote works on history and philosophy. Voltaire's plays became more and more popular, and despite his criticisms of government and religion, his literary influence extended across Europe and the world, and ultimately were a heavy influence on the French and American revolutions.
So as you heard, Voltaire was born in Paris on November 21st, 1694. His father wanted him to become a lawyer. However, no matter where he went or what he did, he continued to practice writing, against his father's wishes. His father disapproved of everything he did, and even when he fell in love with a French peasant girl, his father had him brought back to France from the Netherlands. Voltaire was forced to flee almost every country he went to due to his attacks on government and the Catholic Church. Voltaire wrote over 2,000 books and over 20,000 letters, along with poems and plays. He was imprisoned many times in the Bastille due to his comments on religion and against the French government. While Voltaire did believe in God, or at least some force that created the universe, he considered most religions silly superstitions that caused more harm than good. Voltaire stated that Islam was fanatical and hypocritical, Christianity was ridiculous and absurd, and Judaism was just as bad as Christianity. He also said that Christianity was the biggest hoax ever to infect the world. He did, however, talk positively about Hinduism, calling it peaceful and innocent. Despite all this, Voltaire was an advocate of religious tolerance and freedom of thought. Voltaire spoke out against the absolute monarchies and believed men should use thought and reason over blindly believing what they are told. Voltaire was considered one of the most influential people in France's history and one of the most important people in the Age of Enlightenment. And in case you don't know what the Age of Enlightenment is,
since the Middle Ages, European society had been broken into 3 distinct classes, dictated by birth. There was a great divide between the wealth of the nobility and the clergy, and the poverty of the peasants. Then, at the blossoming of the 18th century, reason and science began to challenge this age-old tradition. Swept up on a current of innovation and new literature, Paris now radiates as the philosophical center of the world. The city pulses with a great flourishing of knowledge, a shining beacon of possibility. It is the age of enlightenment.
The Enlightenment is a movement which says don't trust authority, don't trust anything that you've been told by anybody else at all, think it out for yourself, test it for yourself.
In old regime Europe, you were told what to think. You were given information from above by your rulers, by your priests. And so the idea that you could map out all of human knowledge and then have access to it was revolutionary.
In elite salons across Paris, aristocrats gathered to discuss Enlightenment authors and the burgeoning Age of Reason. Voltaire, Rousseau, fresh voices who champion liberty, control of one's own destiny, and above all, equality. The passion for this new literature is highest among the upper class, but as Enlightenment ideas take root at all levels of society, the drive for equality will begin to threaten the aristocratic way of life.
What makes it dangerous is it means you will eventually question, why are aristocrats the ones with privilege? Can't we change the world to make it a better place? Isn't progress possible? All of that will eventually undermine the idea that monarchy is natural, aristocracy is natural, and hierarchy is natural.
on May 30th, 1778, Voltaire died in Paris. He was denied a Christian burial, but his friends eventually got hold of his body and finally laid him to rest. His remains are now found in the Pantheon in Paris.